From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know. A production of iHeartRadio.
Hello, welcome back to the show. My name is Matt.
My name is Noel.
They call me Ben. We're joined as always with our super producer, Paul Mission Control Decant. Most importantly, you are here. That makes this the stuff they don't want you to know. Heads up, this episode is not for the trypophobes in the crowd. We remember that meme, right? The fear of small, densely placed holes.
Yes.
It's a weird texture, not gonna lie. Just even looking at it as a trypophobe sufferer, it does creep me out a little bit, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, same. It's a weird look, literally. And speaking of weird things, in an earlier listener mail program, conspiracy realist Cool Guy hipped us to a story of Mel's Hole, which Noel, you brought. I almost said brought to the class, brought to the show. And we realized as we're exploring this that Earth is absolutely riddled with mysterious caverns, drops, mines, pits, boreholes, scientific experiments, and so on. So, what do you say? Should we dive in?
To the holes?
A few of them.
Okay, then.
Let's spelunk it.
Yeah!
Here are the facts. The world is full of holes. And it's kind of weird that billions of people have lived on Earth for what we would consider a long time. And there are still so many partially or wholly unexplored subterranean environments out there. Like, we're still finding enormous caves.
Remember that Disney movie Holes from the early 2000s? It was called Holes. I never saw it. It's described on Wikipedia as a neo-Western comedy drama based on a novel by Louis Sachar from 1998, starring Sigourney Weaver, Patricia Arquette, Shia LaBeouf, and Jon Voight. A couple problematic figures in this Disney children's movie. But yeah, it's about mysterious holes.
That's pre-cannibal Shia, right?
Sorry?
Pre-cannibal controversy.
Oh yeah, he said some odd things to some lady friends. Yes, that's right. Yeah, this is when he was a cute little Disney kid.
That's right. Okay, the 90s. So I you know what? I'll put that on the list to either read the book or watch the film because I had no idea that existed. That would have been yeah. Okay. Well, we know in real life people just recently, just a few years ago, found a enormous cave in British Columbia up in Canada. No one had any idea, at least officially, that it existed until now, like throughout human history. And it's so new, it doesn't have an official name yet. Its street name is the Sarlacc Pit, like in Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
Sweet. Yeah, it's huge, right? It was hidden for a long time. They discovered it, which is weird to think about. That humans could still stumble upon something like that because it's huge.
Right? It's egregiously so. I mean, we always say humans are good at losing things, but we should be a little better at finding stuff too, right? In the Wellsgrave Provincial Park, this Sarlacc pit may run for as long as 5 clicks, so that would be a little over 3 miles. And humanity only found it by accident. They were not looking for a cave in 2018. There are these people who have a really interesting job. They hop on helicopters and they count caribou every year.
I'm sorry, what's the official measurement of a click?
Kilometer. Okay.
I've always just used a click as a stand-in for just a kind of amorphous unit of measure. Like, hey, can you turn that up 2 clicks? You know? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Learn something new every day.
Yeah, like notches.
Mm-hmm.
Or, remember when in corporate America, everybody was saying dial it up or dial it back?
Yeah, I kind of miss that trend. Right? At least I chose to ignore it.
Yeah, it's a weird one. But
so these folks were looking for caribou. Yes. And they found a giant hole.
Yeah.
That's where all the caribou fell in, likely. That's where they were all drawn to the hole.
It's a happy accident, Bob Ross style, because if these folks had been counting caribou on foot, or if they've been searching at the wrong time of year, they would have missed it. The helicopter pilot, Ken Lancour, was the guy who said, "Oh, that's weird. We should probably tell someone, just in case, it hasn't been discovered yet." Because this is, again, a very, very remote part of the world. And the Sarlacc name comes from a biologist who was on the bird looking at caribou. His name's Bevan Ernst. And then they went back and they did research, and they've got aerial photography from as far back as 1949. And what they said is, we would have never found this except for climate change.
Oh, yeah, because it was covered in snow, and it took that snow to melt at least sufficiently enough for somebody to notice the depression. And then they're like, oh, hold on. Maybe there's something below that snow.
Well, there's a climate change silver lining, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Think of all the new caves.
Think of all the new holes we'll discover.
There are actually several holes that we're going to be talking about today that appear to be at least somewhat assisted by ye old climate change.
Of course, yeah. And this one, Sarlacc pit here, is just one example, right, of a larger trend we're going to see. The entrance to the cave is 328 feet long by 197 feet wide. And in the BBC, they describe that they compare the size to a football field or a soccer field. So again, just knowing how large or small the average human is, this seems like it'd be something difficult to miss for so long. I mean, thank goodness they found it in a helicopter, not by walking on snow and falling in.
And you'd have to rappel down the cave wall to get inside. That would be the first step of the spelunk, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just so. I mean, we know that they still are not sure how deep the thing actually goes, because a river runs through it, and that river creates mist as it falls. So when they're trying to, they've got a team of people who have gone in 2018, 2020, and they're still working on it. But what this shows us is the issues that we're all describing here. Some of these apertures in Earth are in the middle of nowhere. Some are at the bottom of the ocean. You can easily overlook all of them. A lot of times, the first person who finds a cave dies because they found it by accident.
Yeah, the old trope of the explorer discovering the previous explorer's bones, with a crumbled up map in its skeletal fist.
Mm-hmm. And we're lucky to live very close, comparatively, to the largest known cavern system, or the longest known cavern system in the world, Mammoth Cave in Kentucky. And people are still finding new tunnels in Mammoth Cave. We don't know where it goes. You know what I mean? Like Saruman said, we shouldn't delve too deeply, right?
Yeah, but we do know that tuberculosis patients were kept in there, and that place is haunted.
Yikes. Well, with a name like the Sarlacc pit, I sure hope they didn't discover any of those cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers, like in the film Chud, but also like in the films The Descent, which I think the first one is excellent. And if you want a terrifying spelunk into the unknown, watch The Descent. But speaking of cave systems that are functional and nearby us, have you guys ever been to a concert at the Caverns? Everyone's just screaming about it. It's apparently wonderful.
Yeah, I was going to go to see Godspeed You Black Emperor play there.
That would have been
incredible.
Yeah, King Gizzard played there as well. But it's like a legitimate concert venue in an underground cave, and it looks absolutely fantastic.
Just up the way in Tennessee.
Tennessee in Grundy County.
And that's just the beginning. So join us tonight. We ask, what are the world's weirdest, most mysterious holes? Spoiler, there are a lot. This may end up being a two-parter. We'll need your help, folks. Here's where it gets crazy. The race to be the weirdest hole is a surprisingly robust competition. There are tons of these. We're going to find more as technology improves, as climate change continues, as more people are searching with better and better equipment, and frankly, as more people start to encroach into environments that humans historically did not visit.
Yeah, and like you said at the top, I guess probably a good place to start in terms of mysterious, bizarro hole-related stories. We should go to Mel's Hole. Ben, you put here a quick and dirty recap of Mel's Hole, and I'm just going to take this as an opportunity to titter a little bit, and then I'm going to be a grown-up from here on out. And I'm not going to laugh anymore when we refer to holes.
I'm all about it. Let's get weird with it.
It's weird whether or not I am an immature child. But Mel's Hole, man, we definitely kind of did a little not a deep spelunk, a surface kind of exploration of Mel's Hole. But we'll kind of give you the basics here up front. According to a man identifying himself as Mel Waters in a series of calls to Coast, beginning in 1997, Mel's Hole is a bottomless pit, which is an interesting term, right? Like the idea of a bottomless pit, you hear it in literature a lot, like especially in like kind of fantasy fiction type stuff. The idea of a bottomless pit.
It's hyperbole too.
Hyperbole, it is, yeah. Right? Or it's in some way magical, because unless it goes out the other side of the damn planet, ain't no such thing as a bottomless pit.
I always imagine the possibility of someone thinking they've discovered a bottomless pit by finding some kind of shaft that goes down sufficiently long enough and then curves gradually and slowly to where when you dropped something, you wouldn't get that satisfying plunk. You would get like a woo for a long time and then just kind of as it scrapes along a wall rather than just impacting.
Mm-hmm. And it could also, we know that because especially things are formed by natural processes, they're going to have variances in, how wide or narrow they are. So you could think you're at the bottom, but then technically there might be a smaller part of the, the floor surface that just keeps going. You might just be at the lip of something deeper.
And this alleged bottomless pit is meant to exist somewhere along the Manastash Ridge near Ellensburg, Washington, in Washington State, of course. Waters said the hole was on his property, which is like a rural kind of, I guess homesteady kind of location.
About
right?
14 miles out of town.
Yeah, exactly. And here are some of the kind of wider claims that he made about said hole.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, so first he said the hole has an unknown depth. Fine, right? All holes will have an unknown depth until you plunge those depths. We're being adults. Okay. He says that he did something similar to what Matt is describing there. He got a fishing line and he weighted it at the end, and then he rolled out more and more feet of line, like 80,000 feet of fishing line. That's his claim. And that he had still not hit the bottom by the time he ran out of line.
Well, there was another one. Maybe it was this one, but there was another one or another person that claims they lowered down a packet of Lifesavers, the candy, and to see if they hit water because it would have dissolved the Lifesavers. This is like some of this is very apocryphal, and there are multiple kind of varying stories about this, and as we'll get to kind of what the likely reality of it is. But I thought that was interesting because that would be a smart way of seeing if you hit water, is to see if like something like that dissolved.
I would use an Alka-Seltzer tablet with a hole punched in it.
And listen for the...
Yeah.
I would lower a child into it.
Of course you would, you monster.
No, I'm kidding. But so you're right. There are these other claims. I think one thing that excited all of us about the story, and Cool Guy as well, were the more paranormal things. Like, a black light emanates from a hole. Oh, my neighbor put a dead dog in the hole. And then the dog came back and frolicked in the woods.
Yeah, it was sort of a limp, weird, evil frolic, though.
Right. Very Pet Cemetery. Yeah. And then he says, so when in later conversations, after his first conversation on Coast to Coast AM, which is just an amazing radio show, he says, after I went public with you, Art Bell, soldiers in hazmat suits rocked up to my property. They cordoned it off, and they said I had to sell it to them or they would find a drug lab on my land. So they paid him off.
That seems a little bit, I don't know if they would have said that. Is that an eminent domain situation where you're sort of like forced to sell your land to the government?
Yeah. Usually they would just say eminent domain. They wouldn't say you are going to be framed for operating a meth lab.
Be a shame if somebody found your secret drugs lab, sir.
It's so secret that Mel didn't know about it.
Right.
Yeah. And then they said, Mel, you got to get out of here. And he said, cool. Help me get to Australia.
Yeah.
And they said, done. That's the story. And people
turns out the hole
this.
led to Australia. All he had to do was hop in, and he popped out the other side.
And in 2002, inspired by this growing local lore, a guy named Gerald Osborne and a crew of about 29 other people said, we're going to go try to find the hole. There was a lot of discourse about this on a website called melshole.com, which I don't think is active anymore. But they did a really diligent effort to find it. Unfortunately, they came up with no dice. Waters never specifically revealed the location past the vague language that we gave you from the call. And he did, however, have a ton of stories about this. For someone who thought their life may have been threatened by the feds, he was pretty forthcoming about different things. He said, everybody in our area used the hole as a dump, basically, as a landfill. It's where we put our old refrigerators and dead cows and stuff.
I love dead cows just thrown in there for good measure.
Yeah.
I do also like the idea that there's so many fun little paranormal tidbits in here that like animals avoided it. The dog somehow had a spidey sense of something sinister lurking in there. Believe he even referred to the idea of hearing some sort of creature, lurking and hulking around down there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Heard a lot of, again, apocryphal stories, but what great stories these are, especially when we look at the meta version of this. Mel Waters himself may be a story. There is no historical record of anybody named Mel Waters or anything like Mel Waters living in this area ever.
I just feel like that is the perfect ending for one of those like scholastic book fair scary stories kind of like collections, and it turns out there was no Mel Waters, and maybe he lives in the hole. I don't know. We got to do some workshopping here, but I do feel like there's an opportunity here for a good scary story where Mel Waters is this, like maybe he was dead all along and then his head fell off.
I think about some callers who would call into Coast to Coast, callers who would call into this show, who give themselves a moniker, a nickname, something else that's different. I wonder if that could be a situation where there is a real human that had this thing. It's just his name was completely different.
Definitely. Yeah. I agree with you because we ask you on this show to use a cool nickname. Your G-Man name is fine too, if you're comfortable with that. But it would make sense if someone's trying to hide their identity in some way. However, it does sound, we do know there was a real person calling in, an actual human being. Mel Waters is probably not the real name. It doesn't sound like they're using voice modification software of any sort. So now we have just enough of a grain of truth. There is a person involved for these legends to grow. And experts, their opinions on this range from bemusement to like collegiate irritation, because geologists, the vast majority, will say a hole like this in this region as described is geologically impossible.
That's what makes it so great.
Because some dark mystic powers holding it up. Because Ben, correct me if I'm wrong. He talked about the way these kinds of deep holes can taper, but a hole of the depth being described by Mr. Mel here would likely collapse in on itself, 100%. Due to its own weight and structural, instability.
Unless it was bored by someone or something.
Stop it.
With technology that we have lost. A predecessor.
Y'all are spooking me out. Knock it off.
A predecessor civilization. Shout out H.P. Lovecraft.
That gets into another set of, like, at least one particular hole we're going to talk about later about deep holes in places that are currently, at least at the time the hole is built, inhospitable.
Yes, that's true. And just like Mel's hole, the existence of some of these things is unknown or unproven. The locations are often kept secret, even when authorities know about them, to preserve these unique ecosystems within, because there are living things in a lot of these places. And still the legends persist. We're going to take a break for a word from our sponsors, and then we're going to get even weirder with it.
There's a hole at the bottom of the sea. There's a hole at the bottom of the sea. There's a hole. There's a hole. There's a hole at the bottom of the sea. Remember that from Family Guy? Or Stewie just sings that joke and sings that song like over and over and over again. You know that Family Guy bit where they just go on and on and on with the same.
I know the bird's the word bit. Is it like that?
I don't know the bottom of the sea.
There's a hole at the bottom of the sea. Yeah, it's apparently it's a children's song. So it's apparently is such a thing that it deserves its own tune.
I know there's a pineapple at the bottom of the sea.
There it is. I know that SpongeBob taught me the U.S. dollar is supported by imagination. Sorry for texting you guys that. I just got excited.
Why would you apologize for texting us fire memes?
So maybe we'll get it on our social media. But just okay. Well, great setup, because more recent mysterious holes are not on the land surface. They're underwater. And right now, as we record, just off the coast of Big Sur, California, there's a weird landscape that's the size of Los Angeles. Thousands and thousands of small round divots, or larger ones, varying size. And animals have started making these into natural shelters. So you could call it an undersea suburb of California. It's just fish and other wildlife live there.
It's really weird to look at some of the imagery from high up above, or at least illustrations that try and show like what the region looks like, because it really does look like, I don't know how to, I mean, they call it pockmarked for a reason.
Sure.
Because it really does just look like someone graded over it with some Nephilim-sized machine that makes, these
like
holes.
They aerated the yard.
Yeah, exactly. But on a massive scale.
Mm. Yeah. They call it the Sir Pockmark Field, SUR. Although Sir Pockmark is a funny name for later. Okay. And we owe a lot of the research to the scientists at the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute, or MBARI. And the Mbarians found tons and tons of holes. And at first they had no idea what these things were, how they came to be. They just knew they were the hottest real estate for local maritime life. And for decades, people weren't sure what it was. One of the first initial guesses was methane gas, methane venting. And that could maybe explain it, but they don't look like methane vents. They sent some robots down to check. There were no signs, or what they described as there was scant evidence that there would be fluids involved or methane gas. Instead, what they said is, hang on, this suburb may have been a long time in the making, because it looks like it's based on a slope, right? The photographs from above may appear to be, a relatively even horizontal surface, but because they're on this continental slope, it looks like sediment flows down it every so often, like on the rate of thousands of years.
More like a trench, kind of?
It's weird. I've seen these holes described in they try and give averages, right? So the majority of the holes are fairly small, but there's another set of like 5,200 holes, at least according to Science Alert, that average 570 feet wide and 16 feet deep. So there's some, like, again, it's like varying sizes, right? We're saying average on purpose here. Some are huge, some are small. And especially the larger ones, where the sediment Ben's talking about here flows down, hits like the center of these holes, and causes a tiny bit of erosion every time on each one of those holes.
Yeah. So, and some of them are little guys, and then some of them are kaiju. And the last big sediment flow, they believe, occurred 14,000 years ago, maybe due to an earthquake or some other shift, right, in the land.
But we're talking major event, right? Not like, the earthquakes that LA experiences all the time. Yeah.
That they expect at this point. Yeah. So with this erosion, we see that the mystery appears to have been solved without, ancient civilization or Atlantis. It's a bummer, but stick with us because it gets weirder. Did you guys see the thing about those holes out by the Azores? They look like, we may have even talked about some of these. They look like someone took a serrated pizza cutter and just rolled it across the ocean floor.
Whoa.
Okay. Yeah.
Or like some kind of giant craft landed and scraped the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
You're on fire today, Matt.
Or something like has a snout of some sort with just a single long row of teeth. And it just keeps going.
Digging for sea truffles.
Oh, dude, no. Speaking of aeration, that's exactly what it looks like. Like if you had a single blade aerator.
Is that a thing?
No, but if you had one, that's what it would look like.
Like your pizza cutter analogy, I think, holds.
Yeah, but it's serrated. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
We could single blade aerator. I wonder if that's a thing. I wonder if that's one of those inventions we could make. Well, like when you only want a strip of grass.
Well, no, it would be like a planter.
Landing strip.
It would be like a planter. Those exist where they punch holes at a certain distance apart from each other, but in a singular line.
And this is weird because our pals at NOAA have on their website a couple of fascinating statements about this, and they say, look, scientists hypothesize that the raised sediment may indicate excavation by an organism living in the sediment or digging and removal, perhaps via a feeding appendage of a large animal on the sediment surface. Well, shadows of Cthulhu, right?
Mm-hmm. He's hanging out down there. He's got to eat. He's got to dig for sea truffles.
I want a large, previously unknown maritime animal to be discovered, right, in the modern day. Past the colossal squid, I get it. I'm not trying to be spoiled about it, but it'd be great to have another one too.
It can be squid-like, right? It can certainly have tentacles and perhaps demonic wings and giant glowing red eyes.
Well, I have a feeling that's going to happen sooner than we may think. Absolutely is going to happen because I'm sure we haven't talked about it openly. I don't think, but the vast majority of the focus in the future on UAP is planning to be underwater. So like USOs or the unidentified submerged objects. So I really do feel like as more and more eyes are on the bottom of the ocean in different places, in far-flung places that humans don't generally go to or feel like they need to research, because there's not going to be some kind of undersea mining in those regions or something, we're going to discover stuff.
We talked about this a little bit with Oumuamua and the research in Papua New Guinea, which continues today, right? Also, the feds are showing a strange amount of interest in the Galileo project, and I don't love it.
Which one's that?
The Galileo project is the one out of Harvard that is trying to search for technological signatures from other civilizations. But a lot of the people who are associated with Galileo are also increasingly focused on this underwater USO search, right? Unidentified submerged object or transmedium object.
You guys, a quick minor derailment, not really, and I'll definitely keep this in the back pocket for strange news, but did you read about that Harvard study that suggests that aliens might be living among us in disguise, either underground or on the moon?
Wait, what?
Yeah. The Human Flourishing Program of Harvard University also said that UFOs might be alien spaceships that are visiting to meet their alien friends living on Earth. So I don't know much about this Human Flourishing Project. Even like giant, well-respected Ivy League universities could have programs that would seem fringy, but it's going to be one. It might as rather be at Harvard. I'm fascinated. I want to read more, but I just wanted to mention that, especially given the underground aspect of these findings.
What do they call them? Crypto-terrestrials? We'll get into it.
You're right.
Yeah. I remember hearing this is great for strange news. We also know that the exploration of these weird underwater holes, we just gave you 2 examples. There are many, many more. And given the sheer vastness of the seas, it is statistically inevitable that there's more stuff out there we do not know about. Creatures that lie dead yet dreaming, right? Waiting, estivating for their opportunity to consume the minds of the surface world. Sunken cities, hidden caverns that go on and on for unlit miles. I'm feeling it. Yeah, I hope we find more.
Yeah, you are, bro. I'm loving it.
Oh, thanks, man. We also know that there are so many different types of mysterious holes. It may be surprising for some of us in the audience today to learn that some of the more mysterious ones are made by people. We know exactly when they were made. We know ostensibly why they were made. And in a few cases, there are rumors about why they were actually sealed back up after spending, the equivalent of billions of dollars.
But yeah, come on now. We got to know how deep this thing goes. We got all these eggheads telling us what's at the center of this thing we call Earth. Why not drill down there and see for ourselves?
Mm-hmm. Cast your memory back to the space race in the Cold War, and someone maybe in a boardroom or at a meeting in Soviet Russia says, well, if the Americans are going to try to beat us to the moon, why don't we race to the bottom? They built the Kola super deep borehole. This was in response to another weird hole the U.S. was building, but it's from the late 60s to the early 1990s. They built the deepest artificially created hole on Earth, and then they sealed it up.
Yeah, because what they find down there?
Oh, man. We'll give you the official version. It's weird because it's like the race to build the highest skyscraper. Are people just running toward hyperbole? But there is a lot of science involved. It does teach us a lot about geology. The end goal is to reach Earth's mantle. Everything that humans have done in terms of digging into the surface, we have never dug a hole deep enough to get to the mantle. We're still just a bunch of crusty folks because we're in the crust. The crust of the hole.
Yeah. Stop it. No, continue, please. It's fine. This is making my day. Really quickly, are we about to leave the sea? Are we leaving the sea?
Yeah, we're in the man-made holes.
As we leave the sea, the song that I referenced at the top of the segment, The Hole at the Bottom of the Sea, is what they call it's like an escalating song. So the last verse is, there's a smile on the flea, on the fly, on the wart, on the frog, on the bump, on the log, in the hole in the bottom of the sea. So, it goes verse by verse, adding another dumb thing. And it's been done many, many different ways by many, many different children's performers. So perhaps there could be the sinister aspect to the hole in the bottom of the sea song. If anyone out there in conspiracy land wants to write one up, send it our way. That's conspiracy at iHeartRadio.com.
Sounds like it speaks to the fractal nature of the universe, guys. It gets bigger as it gets smaller. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh. Wheels within wheels, worlds within worlds, all the universe in a grain of sand. Oh, wow. Yeah. So this also, you can tell we've got Friday energy here today, folks. We hope you enjoy it.
BFE.
Yeah. The mantle of Earth is 40% or more of the planet. And there's a radius of 4,000 miles. It's right on like a layer cake. It's right under the crust, and it sort of heaves up and down. Picture it kind of breathing or rotating because Earth is very much alive. Shout out to the Gaia superorganism hypothesis. And the crust, the part that humans are mainly concerned with, it's uneven, and it's just a little tiny portion. It's like the crust on a creme brulee. It's 3 to 25 miles thick.
Are you all picturing those infographics from your middle school textbooks right now? The kind of bisected Earth, with like the different layers labeled and the measurements and all of that stuff. It's burned into my memory.
I'm going to be a dummy. I need someone to write in or call us to explain how humanity understands that the mantle is 1,800 miles thick and understands what is deeper than that mantle, right? Towards the core
samples, right? But
we're saying the deepest hole here that we've ever dug is an attempt to reach the mantle, right? And we I guess we failed, or maybe they were successful to hit the mantle, and that's why they stopped, because the mantle is something different.
Yeah, officially. So yes, geologist, volcanologist, we want to hang out with you. Officially, the hole took about 20 years to reach a depth of around 7.5 miles. But when you're hearing this, right, you might be thinking of the wrong kind of hole. This is just not, when it gets down to the business, it's just 9 inches in diameter because of all the pressure from the rock, right? The increasing temperature. The Americans had their own thing, Project Mohole, in 1958, but they quit in 66, and the Russians just kept going, man. That 7.5 miles or so, that is at best maybe halfway to the mantle, probably less.
Ooh, guys, quick point of scientific clarification. A lot of mantle studies and just in general, the bisection of the layers of the Earth are through the study of seismic waves.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah,
and vibrations. So it's like pinging.
It's a cover up.
Yeah, I also that. Matt's not convinced.
Well,
Matt
it's not that I'm not
skeptical
convinced.
face.
It's just, I don't know. There's this feeling that we really know, we really understand. I keep thinking back to the science textbooks from elementary school, middle school, even college, that are just so. This is exactly what the Earth is made up of. These are the elements that may make it up.
And sometimes they turn out to be confidently incorrect.
How much have we learned about things like particle physics that were just fully wrong back then, or
absolutely
off enough to where it changes our understanding of all the stuff we learned as kids?
Well, but think about all of the materials that are extruded by the Earth during different seismic events. Like rocks that have risen due to convection and things like that. Like that's another way they can study it too. It's maybe it spits up every now and then.
Maybe we've only been focusing on the bad volcanoes. Maybe there are volcanoes that erupt non-magma stuff. Like flowers. I don't know. It'd be cool if there was a volcano that erupted and instead
a chocolate volcano
or a secret civilization of underground folks who are just like, hey, we're not sinister. It took us a while to find the door.
At the center of the bubblegum kingdom. I love this world.
I don't want anyone to think that I or we or anybody here is saying that we just don't believe the science. I think it's tough for me to believe that we have such a full understanding of some of these things at this moment, rather than saying, to our best knowledge, this is what the makeup of the Earth and layers are.
Yeah, we also know that the science has to continue. And again, what defeats the human mind in a lot of these pursuits is just the immensity of scale. It's just the sheer size difference here. And we know, okay, so these incredibly ambitious, brilliant people in Russia build the world's deepest hole. And eventually, okay, here's the legend. The modern legend is, just like the dwarves in Moria, the Soviets dug too deep in pursuit of eldritch powers, and they found mysterious fossils. And then, without hesitation, they sealed up the hole and vowed never to reopen it, lest the world be imperiled.
They found an iPhone down there.
It's a future hole.
They found a box of old Playboys, right?
Oh, no.
And they said, we've got to keep this for us.
No, Matt, I picture when you say they found an iPhone down there, that they found, like, there shouldn't be an iPhone down there. No man has ever been down there.
Well, in 1997 or whatever?
I'm sorry, that's what I thought you were getting at, that it was some sort of portal. Yes, thank you. Just making sure we're on the same page.
We're on the same page. They did find really weird, unexpected things. About 4 miles down, they found 2 billion-year-old fossils of microscopic plankton. That part is true. It also
stumbled upon the microscopic plankton.
Yeah, they were just like
pay dirt. Yeah,
and they said, "Oh crap, it's a rock." Yeah. So we also know that the hole is sealed. That part is also inarguably true, but the real reason for sealing it up, the official one at least, comes from the Smithsonian has a great summation of it. They say, quote, the Kola hole was abandoned in 1992 when drillers experienced higher than expected temperatures, 356 degrees Fahrenheit instead of the 212 degrees that they had mapped up to that point. So what that means is, again, because this is a living dynamic environment, it's changeable, that it means maybe things could have gone wrong very quickly. What does that higher temperature indicate? Right?
I love the way they put it. It's such a visual thing. The idea of the surrounding materials were so hot and essentially almost liquid, I guess.
Yes.
The temperature would absolutely annihilate their equipment. It was dangerous as hell to occupy. The more liquid the environment became, the harder it was to maintain that drill. And the thing I liked what the Smithsonian said was, it's like trying to keep a pit in the center of a pot of hot soup. Because I can immediately picture trying to do that. It would require constant churning, and the moment you stop, it just, closes in on itself.
I'm going to make a hard stance here, guys. I say you do stop, and then you put new equipment down there that's soup-based rather than rock-based.
Ladle. You switch to a ladle situation.
I don't know. Come on, man.
A straw. You know what I mean? Soup beats straw. Or straw beats soup.
Or at least something that could get through that more easily to continue on its journey down that's weighted. I don't know.
All right. He's great. We're calling Russia. And that soup quote comes to us courtesy of Benjamin Andrews, who's the curator for the National Rock and Ore Collection at the National Museum of Natural History. So he does know what he's talking about.
Yeah. He also does all of his science explaining through soup metaphors, which I think is really powerful because that's something we could all get behind.
Dude, I had carrot soup last night.
Carrot soup is so good.
My mind.
It's so good. Did you make it yourself?
No.
It's not hard. You just puree the crap out of the carrots and then add some nice cream, some
I put garlic in it.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I put garlic in everything, actually.
Coriander.
Not all the stereotypes are true.
Indian spices go really well in a carrot soup. I made a carrot and coriander soup one time. It was fabulous.
And while not all the experts, of course, agree on this Russian superbore story, the temperature makes way more sense than the idea of an eldritch conspiracy, but the eldritch Lovecraftian conspiracy story is so tantalizing that it's just too good not to contemplate. And we have to ask, would it be possible to cover up something of that magnitude? If so, what would you cover up and why?
Have you guys seen the new kind of reboot of the Godzilla Kong universe? I believe Legendary Pictures is responsible for
Hollow Earth, yeah.
The Hollow Earth thing, and there's the idea of these creatures living in this past this land that time forgot that exists deep within the earth. I think that's certainly inspired by this type of thinking.
Yeah. Also, that great TV show Land of the Lost.
Was that in the Hollow Earth too?
In the Land of the Lost. Yeah.
Had a banging theme song.
Yeah.
Land of the Lost. Maybe I made that up.
Well, nostalgia is a heck of a drug, as we explored in some other episodes. We're going to take a break for a word from our sponsors, and we're going to hit you with some even crazier news. Not all mysterious holes are on Earth. You ever meet someone, you're like, wow, your holes are out of this world.
One time.
It's a really good pickup line, Ben. I'm going to try that. Really quickly, did you know that Land of the Lost is created by the same team that did HR Puffin stuff? Sid and Marty Croft. As it's now that I think back on it, it's very puppet based, just like Puffin stuff was. But lots of crazy dinosaur puppets and things. But I want to go back. There was a Will Ferrell movie reboot of it, but the show from I believe the 70s. That'd be a fun revisit.
I like the Slee Stack. I love a villain. The Slee Stacks were the reptilian humanoid creatures. All right, shout out Slee Stacks.
Oh, it reminds me of The Time Machine, the H.G. Wells novel where you had the Murlocs and the Eloys or whatever, and which ones? The Murlocs were the underground dwellers that really couldn't hang in the sun.
The Morlocks were the
and they come and snatch up the Eloys every now and then.
cannibal industrial class who became the rulers. And H.G. Wells, well, he's a whole other bag of badgers. But just this week, you guys, news broke about weird holes on the planet Mars. Strange pits are being discovered there. There's a lot of Martian news that's pretty interesting. Some water actually froze on there pretty recently.
But now this isn't just your average crater, right? You know, we think of the surface of Mars as, you know, pocked with these craters, but those are more, superficial than what you're talking about, Ben, right?
Well, we don't know how deep they go.
But the exciting part is they might go really deep because they're on the side of a ginormous extinct volcano. And if they do go really deep, there's some cool implications for us humans.
Yeah. Picture this, fellow would-be astronauts, your new home on Mars. Why, it's not a mobile home. It's not a split-level condo. No, your very own lava tube. It's like a new kind of shotgun house because each room has
might need to work on the branding.
Yeah, well,
call it so.
I'm imagining it like lava tube apartment complexes, right? I mean, this is it's a real.
You build floors into the structure, right? It's like a silo.
Yeah,
I think of it like that.
But it's a stark outlook.
Yeah, it depends on, it's definitely not going to be a pleasant life for the pioneers. And it also depends on the size of the lava tube. I mean, it's an aesthetic choice. Would you personally want to have the privacy of your own smaller lava tube? Or do you want to share a gigantic one and have a studio apartment?
That's what it would be. You'd get like one loft type floor. Because how wide are we talking? I mean, the depth I understand varies, but are they of uniform width, or is that pretty all over the place too?
You know what, Noel? Actually, don't have that handy, but we know this indicates there are probably more than one pits of this nature, and if they go down far enough, then they could be the new home for future human astronauts. Not because of the pleasant decor, but because they will solve one of the biggest problems with humans on Mars. The first one is getting people to Mars safely. The second is keeping them alive on that planet. And one of the big problems with keeping them alive is the radiation. Mm-hmm. You are going to get smacked bad on the surface of Mars.
Yeah, and you mitigate that with, a suit of some kind. But guys, are we also thinking that this might indicate there are cave systems on Mars?
That's the hope, right?
I guess so.
The hope is, and by the way, the hole that was seen by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter was only a few meters across, according to Popular Mechanics.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
So it's like what Ben was saying.
Enough. That's not enough for a dwelling.
Yeah, it could be just an entrance, right?
It's a capsule hotel. It might be really big in the beginning, right? Yeah. Like, have you ever walked into, I love the homes that have that mysterious appearance, you open a door and it seems to be a tiny structure. I was in a place one time. No, it was definitely a bunker. I was going to call it I was going to call it a secret house for some reason, but it's definitely a bunker.
One person's secret house.
Like a little door you would open and all you see there is a steep incline of stairs.
Right.
And when you got downstairs, it was like an entire, actually really nice house.
It's interesting. A lot of the big houses in Hollywood or like in like Malibu and stuff, like from the street view, the facade or the front part of the house that you see looks like a pretty modest home, but the rest of the house is built on the back of this cliff, and it just goes down, 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 and continues jutting out, over the sea, and they're insane. But like if you actually just go out the street, it just looks like a meager little kind of bungalow.
Mm-hmm. We're hoping that the humble appearance belies a greater interior, and we're hoping it leads to a cavern system, like you're saying, Matt. It's radiation from space on Mars due to the thin atmosphere. It's 40 to 50 times higher than anything you will experience in an environment here on Earth. And this also has a bigger question because it's not just about humans. These environments, if the stuff we know about cave systems is similar to what we know about Mars, they could have been the perfect place for maybe a form of Martian life.
Yeah. Well, because we don't know how far back the potential for life goes. What we do, because we estimate how old Mars is, right, in relation to the star that we all orbit around.
Again, how confident are we in that?
Yeah, well, pretty confident. I hope.
Wait, so you don't accept geology?
No, what I'm saying is, I feel so dumb because I don't. No, I do. Oh, I don't know, man. I think I get all jumbled up because it just. The confidence of knowing how long a star has been around makes sense to me in a weird way that the center of the Earth doesn't, because we can actually observe the star. We cannot observe the center of the Earth. We can get hints of it through things, as you're saying, like what
its actions and effects,
what sounds, what waves it makes, right? But we can look out there at the star and we can go kind of spend time backwards in a lot of ways with our models. But I'm just still thinking about Mars and this radiation thing.
Yeah.
Because the fact that that planet doesn't have a magnetosphere, and we just experienced a major coronal mass ejection that hit the Earth, and the only reason why we didn't have major problems is because our planet has that handy magnetosphere that stops things from happening, and that stops the radiation in these bursts from hitting us.
Freaking Goldilocks zone stuff. It's wild that these conditions are just so perfectly conducive to us not frying or dying of radiation poisoning.
But we're like, yeah, man, let's get to this rock that's not shielded at all, and hopefully we can be okay in these maybe volcanoes.
Yeah, we'll find out when we get there.
Did you know you can get a whole hazmat suit for just $140?
The price went down.
I guess so. Now, I will say I was sort of taken a little bit aback because the image on the site, mirasafety.com, includes a really dope respirator mask. That is not included. That is $250 on its own.
Yeah, the mask, one of the key parts. We also know that there are pits like this on the moon as well, or similar things, right? And just like that, it's difficult to explore a cavern here on Earth when you can get actual boots on the ground. It's even more difficult to explore something so very far away. But the moon pit temperatures are, get this, estimated around 63 degrees Fahrenheit. So actually very amenable for human presence. If similar conditions could exist on Mars, then it would go a long, long way to making the dream of a second human planet a reality. Or, pick your poison, returning to the original planet.
Hey,
just
I
gonna
think
throw
that's
that
it,
one
man.
in.
Ben, I think you're right, dude.
Was it Ray who wrote Heinlein wrote Red Planet, right? Yeah, Red Planet. It's just, I don't know. I haven't read it in a long time, but it is I do recall it being a really cool Heinlein novel about colonizing Mars. And I'm pretty sure there's some cave situations, and when they kind of get into exploring it's a little bit more of a Mars, I think, that's been terraformed and that has, actual life. It's able to support life to some degree, but probably worth a revisit thinking about this stuff.
Yeah, one of the most recent books about Mars that I really enjoyed was The Strange by Nathan Ballingrud. I don't even want to spoil it, man. I'm not even sure what genre it is. Nathan, who I've spoken with over a few years, Nathan is very much considered a horror writer. Like he had several things adapted from his previous anthologies, but I wouldn't call The Strange a horror novel. God, I want to know if anybody else has read that one, because it stays with me. It's like kind of a Western. All right, you know what?
That sounds great. No, I have pledged y'all. I'm saying it right here out loud for all to hear, to read a book this year. By end of year's time, I will have read a book. Damn you. Maybe that'll be the one.
Yeah. Okay. So the brief backstory, I don't want to keep us too long on this, is that it's an alternate universe, but people live on Mars now, and the project to get humans to Mars has lost steam. It has failed. It's a dying civilization in a dust-bowl planet. So I think that kind of, it's so good. I might read it again.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But as we're speaking of, we've been going for a while now. We said this might end up being two-parter. There are several other places we have to go, or at least shout out. One of them is the Son Dong Cave in Vietnam. It is the largest cave in the world. It is also the most unexplored. It is super difficult to get in. Only 1,000 people per year can visit, and it's $3,000 per person just for the tour. And this thing, despite its huge size, it wasn't discovered till 1991, dudes.
Bro, that's less than the Star Wars Galaxy Star Cruiser hotel debacle situation. Fake spaceship, $5,000 a person for 2 days. I think you've outlined a pretty solid bargain there, my friend.
Dude, look, please, folks, if you have not heard of this before, it's spelled SON space DOONG cave. Please check out the videos or the 3D tours. It is probably the closest thing humanity has found to a underground world or a hollow earth. The scale is immense. I want to go so bad.
It's one of my favorite parts about the parts of Elden Ring that I did finish, where you'll find some well and then you hit a lever and you just go down for ages. And then you're in this, like, I think maybe it's one place in particular, but I bet it happens more than once. And you're just in this underground thing where it like has a night sky. It's unbelievable, the scale of it. And then it's inhabited by these like weird crystally people that murder you instantly with impunity.
Yeah, you got to get your levels right.
You sure do, buddy. And I never quite got the balance.
Get that vigor, get good, as they say.
Yeah, I never got good. I stayed bad.
Oh, man. Bad like Michael Jackson. Well, we can't say that anymore. Bad to the bone.
Skyrim is much more my speed. It's a little more forgiving.
They also have one of those places, a cave that seems to almost have a sky because of the mycelium.
In Skyrim?
Blackreach.
I don't think I've gotten there yet. I don't think I've seen it in any of my playthroughs. So that's exciting because I love that. I just started the Dawn Guard, and it gives you a whole nother set of environments, which kick butt. So I love discovering new things because that game can get a little samey if you're just fast traveling between the villages to sell your stuff.
I like it.
I love everything about it. It's a great game.
I kept my old PS4 entirely because I have 100% playthrough on there, and sometimes I'll just turn it on, and it's weird. Skyrim is an RPG that turned into The Sims. Now I just like walk around, and I kid you not,
you can farm,
I look for soup. I go grocery shopping in this fake whatever.
What's your go-to soup? I like to make a vegetable stew.
Vegetable stew is good. Yeah.
It's got good stats. But Ben, I mean, what is it? Fallout 4? They kind of simifies the hell out of that game. It sort of pissed some people off with all of the settlement buildings and stuff. Like, it's kind of annoying. It's not something that I've really ever gotten into. But I love the idea of just exploring the world you've built for yourself, Ben.
It's a weird one, but it's better than spending money, right? Going outside. So we also know, all right, there are so many other things we have to get to that they may have to be in a second episode. But this cave in Vietnam first got explored in 2009, and people still don't know how far it goes or where it goes. And then they've got the stories of the burning pits, like Centralia, Pennsylvania, the mouth of hell or the gate to hell, the Darvaza gas crater in Turkmenistan. Those I don't think are mysterious. We know human error created them, but the biggest mystery is when are they going to stop burning? Even now, we're not entirely sure.
I mean, that sounds like hell to me. It's just constantly on fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All the time. I mean, give me a break.
We also have to go back to a great hobby horse of ours over the years, Antarctica. I don't know why I said it like that. Antarctica. Stuff like the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory down there in the southern.
You say observatory to match your pronunciation of Antarctica. I love it. Ben. I'm teasing you. I'm sorry.
We're great, but we remember the Ice Cube, the Neutrino Observatory, right?
I don't know if I do, but it sounds fancy. I know the neutrino is a real serious tiny particle, right?
It's literally a giant cube of a bunch of different sensors.
Oh, like an array of, I got you.
And there's a particular individual whose name I cannot think of right now, who is a self-styled whistleblower who says he was working there and believes that it is not just an observatory. These are not just detectors in the ice. These are also things that can work together to emit some type of energy that can be used.
And it's not Bob Lazar, definitely. He's talking about a different thing. I remember what you're talking about. That they were making energy weapons.
Like a sonic weapon, or something like that.
An energy weapon similar to the ones alleged to exist at HARP.
HARP is what was coming to mind.
Right.
You can find videos of this, but I've never seen it substantiated by anybody else.
I know it's Eric Hecker,
yes.
A Raytheon contractor, and he claimed that, similar to earlier HARP theories, that the Ice Cube Neutrino Observatory actually created some earthquakes.
Yes, and
at least that's one of the things.
Do other weird energy
could be
stuff.
Harnessed, intentionally if the mood struck them.
So that's the thing. Check out our episodes on that. You can also check out What's Beneath the Antarctic Ice. That was a groovy one for us in our video days as well. We were talking a little bit off air about just how weird Antarctica is. We foreshadowed this a little bit. This is a great time for Antarctic science because of climate change, right? It will ultimately lead to large-scale disasters as the ice sheets start transforming away from being ice sheets. But
sure it's not a Chinese hoax, though, Ben?
Ice?
Climate change.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Because I'm 50-50 on ice.
I'm joking. Yeah. I say that would be a great campaign to mount. Ice isn't real.
Show me the proof.
Prove me wrong.
Well, and if you want another thing to search about Antarctic ice and Arctic ice, you can look up a thing that is known as the Maud Rise, Maudrise, Polynya, which is spelled Polynya. It is just an interesting thing about, well, this one, the Maud Rise one, is a specific hole that opens up periodically in the Antarctic ice pretty near the shore of Antarctica. And scientists for a long time were trying to figure out why the heck this thing opens and kind of closes. And again, this is an ice sheet. So if you imagine ice on the sea forming, right, as a sheet, and then this hole opens up. The thing is, the hole is sometimes the size of New Zealand, sometimes the size of Maine. It's huge.
It's the scale again. So when are we going?
I got to hit up REI first and get some spelunking gear, but I'm down.
Well, we got to do it in the winter time. So I don't know what winter is in Antarctica.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of perma-winter?
The land of always
Does it
winter.
really change?
Yes.
Much?
Yeah, it does.
The ice sheet forms and juts out into the sea and then recedes back.
I see. That makes sense.
I see. The slight discursion here. It is so fascinating. We also had an episode on how murder is handled in Antarctica or crime in general, and it's
like a gray area, kind of, right? Like it's it's a weird.
Well, who gets jurisdiction, right? Because there's
so many of those research stations that are under different national whatever. Technically, it's like an embassy or something, right?
Right. And despite the earlier ambitions of New Schwabia, there is no government that owns Antarctica. And I got so close to being able to travel there, not once but twice. It's still on the list. It's just kind of not sounding cheapskate. It's a little pricey.
I bet. I gotta say though, Ben, you're quite the adventurer. You've had some adventures.
Antarctic, we gotta go, man.
I'm just saying, if you add Antarctica to your list, you'll be up there with like a Teddy Roosevelt-esque kind of, naturalist type figure. I'm just saying.
Well, let's all go. Let's go Antarctica. Paul, I'm going to assume you're in, so I'll just Venmo you for the tickets.
I'll just bring my puffy coat.
Yes,
I'll be just fine.
And Matt, sorry, Matt is having to suffer through that riffing there. But what?
No,
else?
I'm bringing my ice climbing stuff so I can get over this ice wall that everybody
is that like spiky shoes,
the mountains of madness.
What about those picks? Those like scythe looking things?
Yeah.
Those are sick. Yeah.
The carabiners.
Well, carabiners are just the little clicky boys that connect the things,
but we need
right?
those for the rope.
Oh, you got to have carabiners. Are you kidding? You think we're not going to bring carabiners?
We got all the way out here. We forgot the carabiners.
How will I clip my keys to my belt? I'll surely lose them in the Arctic tundra.
I will pitch that. I don't love reality TV, but I will pitch this for us as a documentary, as a limited series documentary on Netflix.
Yeah, it'll rival Nanook of the North.
Dude, no, it'll be the biggest thing that hit Discovery since Ice Road Truckers. It'll be ice wall climbers.
Yes,
there it is.
Amateur ice wall, not even amateur. Like what's below amateur?
Our qualifications include enthusiasm.
Yes, exactly.
That's
excitement,
enthusiasm, and
naked, frozen, and afraid.
Oh man, yeah. And look, we also know there are deep water-filled sinkholes like El Zacaton in
that one has
Mexico.
such gravity to it, doesn't it? That's the name.
Looks so beautiful. Yeah, the blue hole out there in the water. Man, we think though that the most out there question is something we can answer a little bit. Could there be something like a hollow Earth? Science, again, seems pretty certain about the nature of the planet's interior, so a fully hollow Earth feels like something that either doesn't make sense or we would have heard about before.
But what about 8 miles deep?
Exactly. Right? We never got there. What about a huge, absolutely locked off, self-contained subterranean environment that is miles and miles and miles and miles long enough or wide enough? The breadth of it is such that if you are a human-sized human walking around in there, you'll think, holy smokes, there is a hollow Earth. I'm in it. Even if it's like the size of, I'm not going to pick a really big one, the size of New Hampshire. Or forget it, the size of DC. You'd be like, wow, this is real.
Dude, what if there's a Texas-sized dome that is covered in some kind of heat-resistant mineral that formed over millions and millions of years? And it's
so on board.
Dude, they're down there, and they're just like, well, we're the mole people, and actually life's pretty great. And the moment that they encounter humanity, their civilization,
they get the internet.
Exactly.
Yes,
they get the internet.
Instant porn addiction, like.
Well, they probably have their own kind of predilections.
That's a good point.
And they probably would be like, no, we call ourselves the people.
Yeah.
Because that's how those things work.
Exactly.
We call you the dirt walkers.
Oh, that's right. Because their language would definitely immediately resemble ours 1-to-1, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And, the real question is the size and scale. It's then, therefore, possible, we could even say plausible, that there are undiscovered subterranean areas like we're describing, big enough for humans to consider them another world, unless, of course, there's something they don't want you to know.
Yeah, and undiscovered countries of sorts. Shout out to Max Williams for the Star Trek ref.
And as we said earlier, this is probably going to be a continuing series for us. We would love your help, fellow conspiracy realists. We come to you, hat in hand, asking you, the best part of the show, to tell us about the caverns, pits, and holes in your neck of the global woods, especially, bonus credit if they are include bizarre claims and legends, like the tuberculosis camp.
Oh, you can find us. We're on the internet. You can hit us up at the handle Conspiracy Stuff, where we exist on Facebook, on YouTube, where we have video content of delightful varieties rolling out every single week. We think they are anyway, and we think you will too. Also on X, the social media platform formerly known as Twitter. On Instagram and TikTok, you can find us at Conspiracy Stuff Show.
Hey, do you want to call us? Our number is 1-833-STDWYTK. That's just stuff they don't want you to know in letter format that you have to translate into numbers on your phone. Good luck. If you do manage to get through the phone lines, you'll have 3 minutes to leave a voicemail. Give yourself a cool nickname and let us know if we can use your name and message on the air. If you've got more to say than can fit in that 3 little minutes, why not instead send us a good old-fashioned email? We are
the entities that read every email we receive. Conspiracy@iHeartRadio.com.
Stuff They Don't Want You to Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.